You can leave the mics there. You're picking up from the.
It's already live.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Look, we are
Back.
returning. Yep.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, it's showtime again. Okay.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Hey, everyone. Welcome to Silicon Zombies. So when we kick off in just a quick second, we're going to say, at Silicon Zombies, you get the best brains from the Bay, and I'm going to point to you, and you all yell as fast as you can and beyond. Yeah, so let's do a practice one right now. Where you get the best brains from the Bay and beyond. Hey, you guys are good at this. Okay, cool. So I guess we're live now. So we're gonna go ahead and. We're just gonna turn that off. All right, take two.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody to Silicon Zombies, episode 143. Where we bring you the best brains from the Bay and beyond! We're super thrilled to be here today with Mayor Greer Stone and the Palo Alto Youth Commission. And we're going to be talking a little bit about community and what's happening, where we're headed, all sorts of fun stuff. Before we get started and just kick off some quick introductions, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Necodex. That's Necodex.com. So if you're looking to build web or mobile or need help with product development and design, go to Necodex.com. All right, without any further ado, what do you say we light this candle? We'll get started here. Maybe Mayor Greer, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for being here, and in particular, be able to be here with Palo Alto Youth Council. Particular honor of mine to be able to be sharing the stage with all of you to have a great conversation that we're going to have this evening. My name is Greer Stone. I'm the mayor of Palo Alto. And for me in particular, this is really exciting because youth mental health and well-being has been the real focus of my time as mayor. And over this past year and looking into the short-term future, we, the city of Palo Alto, have accomplished a lot in this area. We're creating a lot of new services for young people to try to be able to address some of the concerns of youth mental health that has really plagued this city for far too long. So I'm excited to be able to talk about it tonight with all of you, hear all of your feedback and ideas as well. And yeah, just an honor to be able to be here. So thanks everyone.
All right, cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Natia. I'm a senior at Council Ed, and I'm the president of Palo Alto Youth Council. And this is my 4th year on the council, and it's very near and dear to my heart. And we're really excited to have my leadership team with me here. They'll go through their introductions, and I wanted to kind of just give a quick overview of who we are, what we do, for those who are unfamiliar. So the Palo Alto Youth Council comprises of really passionate teams from all over Palo Alto, either live or attend school, and are in high school. And basically we work with the city, we work with the city council, with our mayor, and we plan initiatives and events surrounding themes like mental health, civic engagement, and a lot more that really help teams get involved, become educated, and it's really wonderful work that we do to kind of just increase the amount of engagement in our community, especially the teen community, and address some of the issues that we see that our community is facing. So I'll leave it up to my leadership team to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla. I'm a senior at Council as well, and I'm this year's vice president. So I guess I'll just share one of the reasons why I joined PAYC. So I actually don't live in Palo Alto, but I go here every day for school. So I've kind of over the years been exposed to the community, and I think one of the biggest reasons I joined PAYC was really just to get more involved and like get to know people in the community, get to know other Palo Alto students, and people were just passionate. That's all to know.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie. I'm the current secretary of the Palo Alto Youth Council, and I'm a sophomore at Castellet, and this is my second year on the council. I really wanted to be a part of this council to really further youth mental health advocacy. I want to make sure that teens are able to reach accessible mental health resources and feel supported in the Palo Alto community.
Hi, I'm Vin. I'm a sophomore at Gunn, and I came into this, being really passionate about politics, and I thought, what better way to further that passion than to join Palo Alto Youth Council. And I'm an outreach specialist alongside Annika, and I think Annika will touch a little bit on what exactly that role entails.
Hi, my name is Annika, and I'm a senior at Pali. I'm also an outreach specialist, like Vin said, and we get to do a lot of really cool stuff with outreach. We plan all of these events as a whole council, and then our job is to get us connected with different organizations that we can partner with, and also do some publicity for the events that we're planning.
So, hi, I'm Malcolm, and I'm a junior at Palo Alto High School. And so I am one of the 2 public information officers. And so our job is just trying to spread the message to as many people, as many youth as we can, because it's really important that we are able to share the really great and meaningful work that we do.
Yeah, and I'm Cleo. I'm one of the other public information officers, and I really enjoy doing a lot of the publicity work for the Palo Alto Youth Council. We get to learn about different people's backgrounds and spotlight that through our publicity work, and that's one of the reasons why I really want to join the council, is because I really want to hear from different diverse perspectives and learn more about my community and get involved directly.
Wonderful, thank you for these marvelous introductions. As we get started, I understand that the applications were tripled this year for the commission, so pretty exciting stuff. As president, perhaps would you like to share how has the outreach changed in this specific space? Was it the message? Was it the channel? Also, congratulations.
Thank you. So I also served as vice president last year, and I learned a lot about the outreach that happens before applications start coming in, and what type of communities to target, how to get the word out there. And I think the changes that we made were making it more local and more accessible. We had a lot of campaigns, just like asking for applications, and a lot of informational flyers on Nextdoor, on social media, even posted around physically. I had my mom texting her friends and telling them to tell their friends, and a lot of just like kind of grassroots movements to get the word out that we were accepting applications. And I think there was also a distinction that we made with our council against other youth councils in Palo Alto, because we do have a teen advisory board, a wonderful youth commission that's working more towards community building, whereas we're working more towards advocacy on the issues level of teen issues. And I think by making that distinction of working with the city council, what's our goal, and being really specific about the type of people we wanted to join our council, we were able to reach a really large population of people who are just incredibly passionate and really wanted to join, which was really nice.
Fantastic. Since you have the ear of the mayor and the entire city, what are some things that would make life easier for youths in the city of Palo Alto? And how can Palo Alto help PAYC? Maybe we'll start over here.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest ways Palo Alto can help the youth is by just really focusing on the initiatives and issues that are really that youth are really struggling with. So for us, we've been adopting a lot of our mental health initiatives, civic engagement initiatives, and those are all based on data we've collected from Palo Alto youth. For example, we've sent out censuses and received survey results and stuff like that, which have really informed what our initiatives are for the year. And I think Palo Alto can certainly just help out by looking at those responses and sort of guiding us towards our movements and stuff.
Excellent. Did anybody else want to chime in as well? She was going to throw it as well.
As someone who goes to a school that's not in Palo Alto, but I know so many people in my school who do live in Palo Alto, I know it's very hard to get to know about all the different resources that Palo Alto provides. And I think something that's really important to us as youth is getting full transparency about different events and things that are being organized. And yeah, that's something that I really value personally. And I always get really excited to learn more about the events, and especially through PAYC, I've been able to do that, and I'm very grateful for that.
I'll just add one more thing, which is that we have an amazing city council liaison who comes to some of our meetings, Julie Lipcott-Eames. And I know Mayor Stone used to be our liaison back when I was a sophomore. And that's really amazing for us because we get to have you guys, the city council, coming and hearing our discussions. Whereas when we go to city council meetings, where we do go to them a couple times a year, then it's really great to have that space, but there are a lot of people sharing that, so we really appreciate having a more personal connection.
Actually, I had a follow-up question for you, because when we were doing our prep chat with the group, you mentioned a couple of really cool classes that you're taking, and to a greater degree, you all mentioned how open-minded folks are that maybe some of the adults could learn from. So maybe let's start with a couple of your classes, and then Mayor Stone, if you wanted to share some impressions on what we thought during the kids and press doing.
Yeah, so I go to Palo Alto High School, and we have some really cool programs and pathways there that I get to be a part of. I think some of the ones that I talked about were the social justice pathway, which is Pali specific, I believe, and it is your sophomore through your senior year. You have the same cohort of 60 students, and you all get to go together with the same teachers and have all of your classes very social justice oriented. And so we get to do some really cool classes like communications and leadership and learn about everything on a social justice scale, which I get to personally bring to PAYC. And then another thing that we do is there's an AP capstone pathway, which is national. It's not at all schools, but it's at a lot of schools that have AP. And I'm in AP research right now within that. I took AP seminar last year, and we get to research our own individual topics. And so what I'm researching right now is youth news fatigue, and looking at which formats of actionable news, so that's news that has calls to action in it, which is shown to be effective at lowering and reducing news fatigue, which I'm sure a lot of people have felt. I've felt it. It's you're thinking, you finish reading about a topic, you finish hearing about something going on in the world, a current event, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so stressful. And it just makes you, when you're thinking about going out and reading the news again, you're like, oh my gosh, like it elicits stress, and it makes you not want to read the news. And something I've experienced, something I've noticed in my community amongst my peers, and so I'm getting to research that and then bring it to the Palo Alto Youth Council and kind of bridge those worlds.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, as you can tell, an incredibly impressive group of young people. But in many ways, I think this is a good representative sample of the talent and the passion of young people that we have in this community. I think it's one of my great honors to be able to be the mayor of the community that I grew up in. I went to Pali, so I'm with you, Annika. And yeah, I think one of the things though, while I was growing up here, was a feeling of frustration that this is such a high achieving community. We have some of the leading experts in the world. So many of our classmates go on to Stanford, Harvard, etc. And there is a tendency to start to feel like that is the norm. And if I can't achieve that, that somehow I have failed. And we really need to get out of that. I mean, there's so many different ways that we are able to define success. And it's not the number of zeros in your bank account. It's not the amount of degrees on your wall or how fancy those degrees are. I didn't get into Stanford University twice. Rejected me for undergrad and Stanford. But I was able to forge the path that worked out for me and define the success that was really important to me. And I think there's a tendency in Palo Alto as well to kind of feel like, oh, because the adults are so impressive, my voice doesn't matter and I can't contribute. And nothing further is from the truth. I understand that feeling, but this is a community that wants to hear your voices. Our council wants to incorporate your voices. And that was one of the reasons why I got engaged and got appointed to the Palo Alto Human Relations Commission when I was 23 years old. Because I wanted to be able to kind of make that difference as a relatively young person at the time. And so I'm so proud of all of you for stepping up at such a young age and making an impact, seeing a problem in your community and wanting to work on these type of issues. You are absolutely making a difference, and I really appreciate that.
And some of them may be going for your job, so like that. So and we talked a little bit about mental health and where we get our news from, and the answer is actually pretty surprising. Maybe we could go around and talk a little bit about how your news reading habits have changed, and maybe how it has impacted your own health.
Yeah, I think I would definitely say one thing that we all can agree on is that social media is often not the best place to get really concrete pieces of information. It's a good way to, maybe be alerted of something, but we know that it's not always incredibly reliable. So I think we all talked about relying on news sources that have been labeled as credible, at least in the way we view the world. But I know Annika had a really good point to make when we talked about this, going to news fatigue, so I'll let you kick that off as well.
And I actually kind of want to provide a counter perspective to that, because while I do agree that social media news is often not the most, doesn't give you the full story at the very least, it is a really great tool to hone into sometimes, because it's so accessible for people, and especially young people. And what we were talking about earlier with my AP research topic on news fatigue is that currently 40% of people aged 18 to 23 actively avoid the news. So that's not just being disengaged and not caring about it, it's actually seeing a news article and scrolling past it because of this anticipated anxiety. And social media can provide a space where it's coming across your feed, so you're seeing things even if you're not one to actively look for them. And there are a lot of different initiatives and things that can be done right now by different news sites to engage more young people and kind of mitigate this news fatigue. But right now on social media and through all different kinds of news formats, we're kind of seeing how this generation picks up and how this generation interacts with each type, because it's very different. And social media and technology, the internet, is evolving, and the news and how we're seeing things around us, how we're learning about the world, is adapting. So we have to keep an open mind.
Please.
Yeah, and I think the point that she talked about with like news and stuff like that, that's a really fair point. That's also something that we talked about. Should news sources be penalized if they don't give us the right news? Should they be rewarded when they do? I think that this is a really fair point, because at the end of the day, news business is all about who's the first one there, who's the best one. And by being the first one there, you might not get all the stories. And I think that as a journalist, like I know multiple of us are here on the panel, I think that, we want to make sure that we are getting all the facts straight. But at some point in time, it's like, well, I mean, for social people on social media, well, they're able to get this stuff out there as fast as they can. A lot of people are seeing this because I'm pretty sure that, you know, fake news and stuff like that actually spreads faster than real news. And so I feel like on social media, a bunch of people are on there, so the news is spreading really quickly. And that kind of results in these news sources, you know, they don't have the same amount of time to get these stories right. And so that ultimately, like Annika's talking about, hurts people who want to see the news, and so overall just not very good.
You know, we can almost we could look at this as a parallel to how products are built, right? Like Apple, they wait a little bit longer, but they make sure their product is totally perfect. They get a ton of accolades. Meta, on the other hand, maybe they're shipping a little bit faster, but they're also getting it out and getting feedback to kind of iterate into the next level. So it is kind of an interesting balance. Speaking of which, if we're thinking critically about where the burden of responsibility is from a news perspective, it sounds like maybe you had a different opinion.
Yeah, so I think it's really on the reader themselves, and I think that sort of ties into us as Palo Alto Youth. You know, we need to be more educated. I think, you know, all of us here, everyone on the Palo Alto Youth Council is very educated about news and politics, but spreading that message to other youth in order to make sure that our whole community is educated, you know, where all Palo Alto teens are able to parse between, you know, what's fake and what's real, and, you know, being able to not rely on other sources of information necessarily, but, you know, get the information and then check using your own knowledge, your own previous knowledge. And I think, you know, that's one of our goals is through civic engagement, is spreading that awareness of, you know, what's going on in the city, you know, with our city official meet and greet, you know, making sure that our Palo Alto teens are well educated about their, you know, the different city officials serving them, making sure that they have the knowledge that they need when they pre-register, eventually when they do vote. And so, you know, make that distinction is very clear.
Yeah, I'll add on to that a little bit. I think that it's important when you're talking about getting social media from news, even if it's not the most reliable source, it is where a lot of people are ending up. And I know myself included, maybe other people up here are better at this than I am, but sometimes I'll see a source on social media, a news source, and go without double checking it. And I think it's, when you're scrolling, it's a habit. It's like you just keep scrolling. It's hard to break out of that. It's hard to break out of that when you're on social media. And so breaking out of it to go search something up in the news, especially if you already don't like reading the news, is a little bit of a high expectation. And so one of the things when we're trying to reach our goals of getting people more informed is we need to not approach it from a shame or like you shouldn't do this, but instead give people the tools to, like Vin was saying, to like tell off the bat, oh, well, I think this probably isn't the full story. I think this probably might not be true, or even want to look other places, like making some broadcasts ourselves. I know we do some monthly broadcasts, or we used to. And so that's kind of like our role in that.
Yeah, I'll also add just one more thing. I think that when we have to think critically about news, I think that not only applies to what we read online, it also applies to in the classroom. Personally, I get a lot of my news from what I talk about in class discussions, we talk about as a class. And when I'm not thinking critically about the news, when I'm not really educating myself on the things that are going on around me, I think I really begin to accept all the opinions, no matter maybe how biased they are, no matter how perhaps even like infactual they are. But I think it's when we begin to think critically about what our classmates, what our teachers are saying, that's when we begin to learn how to kind of sit with it when there's disagreement.
Speaking of which, staying in a space of being open-minded, I feel like the team here is really good at creating a space of psychological safety for that. But how come? Where does that come from?
I think one of the biggest things is that we all come from, a very sort of similar environment, like school-wise, or just being in the Bay Area, being in Palo Alto. And I think one thing that we've all sort of begun to realize or even just learn and grow over the years is this sort of open-minded mindset. And it's like, we have hard discussions sometimes, especially with, like, for example, Civic Impact Summit, where we've run like kind of discussions with other youth groups that I think we've begun to like respect differences and also sort of facilitate these open conversations where we can speak and like respect each other's opinions.
I think I'll also say that I'm really proud of the culture that we've created within the council. I think it does take work. It's not something that can come naturally. And I think Priscilla and I worked really hard to put together a team that was filled with people who are passionate about what they believe in and who will fight for what they believe in, but who are also ready to be challenged in their beliefs and are ready to listen to that and be open to that and honestly kind of look for that in the space. And I think we kind of create that environment in a couple different ways, which is we have the starter at every one of our meetings, we start with an icebreaker. We ask a silly question about somebody's day, about, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? And, we have some funky answers, and it's a way where, we have 30 people on our council coming from 6 different schools all across the Bay Area. A lot of us had never met each other before our first day together, and so it's a way to get to know each other and get to be comfortable with people that you don't see on a daily basis, and kind of get to understand them on some of the silly things like what's their favorite food or like what type of potatoes are they feeling like that day or things like that just kind of create a culture of camaraderie and togetherness.
I don't know if you were asking specifically within the council, but another thing that we do is we really try to facilitate conversations outside of the council, so within our community. And Natia was mentioning how our council is very cohesive and we're very open to that. But especially when it comes to political issues, it can be really difficult to have conversations with people that you disagree with. And a lot of that comes down to how emotional the process is. We were talking about a little bit before about separating emotions from politics. But politics are emotional, they're inherently emotional. And when we're thinking about having discussions with people, it's easy to think about having a discussion with someone who has a different belief than you. So it's like, oh, they like this and I like this. Yeah, we can talk about that. But I think that with a lot of political issues today, it comes down to people view it as a values-based thing, and it partially is a values-based thing. And we have to be conscious about that when we're going into conversations, that we're not debating the person's, that we're not like invalidating their opinion and going off the bat with a closed mind because we think that they have bad values or that their values are inhumane or anything like that. And so when we're fostering discussions and we're trying to create those open spaces, one of the first things we do is try to create connections beyond those values and those beliefs and show the shared values that we do have. So Nati was talking about like icebreakers and relating with other people, and even on a scale outside of our council, that kind of thing and creating connections with people beyond the values that we think go into each political decision is really important.
I think they're all such an inspiration that the rest of us can learn from and the rest of the country can learn from. I think one of the great things about Palo Alto is that this really is kind of the Palo Alto culture in how we deal with these difficult issues. And I think on the city council, generally, we can have some fierce disagreements, but ultimately at the end of the day, and I think so much of this is based on do you respect the other person? And when you do, and when you're not thinking of them as you are my enemy because you think differently than me, then you're able to come to a completely opposing viewpoint and move on and be civil with each other. That happens on our council quite a bit, but I think it's an art that much of this country has lost and many politicians have lost. And so you are all the future who are going to be able to hopefully take this really, I think, kind of just progressive view of how we interact and how we have these debates, and hopefully be able to continue to spread that around the country and really be able to kind of change our political dialogue.
Yeah, on your point, Mayor Greer Stone, I think that it's really important because I know one of my teachers once told me that, to actually change someone's viewpoint, you first have to hear them. And I feel like that's what we don't do as much right now in today's modern state. And so I feel like, just for me, I can do that too. I just want to talk. I want to say what I believe. But I feel like to really change a person's mind, you got to hear their first. You got to see what they're looking from, and now I see where you're coming from. I see what you're saying beyond whatever you're talking about. You have to really see, put your feet in their shoes, like we've all been talking about. And I feel like as someone on the council and as the mayor, I feel like it's really incredible how you guys can keep that discussion, kind of like what we do here, have go beyond just what we believe and stuff like that. Really see them at a personal value, and I feel like that's always be something great, and we should spread it as far as we can.
Beautiful, good.
If I can just add one more thing, I was just going to say that I think another big factor in being able to kind of disagree with others is also comfort, and I think this gets back to the icebreakers. It's about, in a big group, it's about getting people comfortable with one another so that we can all voice our own opinions. Because I think it's really easy to agree with others and just nod and just let everything kind of pass over you. But I think that, number one, when you really feel really passionately about an issue, but number two, when you feel comfortable in the space to express your viewpoint and feel like you won't be pushed back down, I think that's where we're really going to get the diverse and creative solutions.
I've got a curveball for you guys. So we know that we need to listen to other folks. If we see life through a lens, and maybe sometimes that lens is clouded with emotion, what are some questions that we can ask ourselves to, in turn, be more open to truly listening and understanding others?
I can actually talk about this because I know I shared earlier, but I had an experience during the summer where I was on a congressional campaign and I was going door-to-door canvassing, talking to people about the beliefs that my candidate held and trying to convince them to also believe what my candidate believed. And when you meet someone, the first time you're meeting them, you're immediately asking, what do you believe? How can I change that belief to what I think you should believe?
30 seconds.
Yeah, in 30 seconds, please don't close the door on me. And I think when that's the first conversation you have, people are not often receptive. And I found that, the more I was listening to like how Malcolm said, the more I listened to their stories, the less emotional I was able to get. Because at the same time, when I was meeting somebody who didn't have the same belief set as me, my initial reaction was, I have to change this. I have to make them believe what I believe. And going door after door after door, hearing people tell me, no, I don't think what you think. It was challenging, but it also allowed me to reflect and know what's my goal. At the end of the day, of course, I want them to support my candidate, but can we still do that even if they don't believe what I believe? Can we still have that connection and come to an understanding of each other without having to compromise either of our values or either of our beliefs? And I think that does come through listening, and it comes through kind of letting go of the fact that not everyone has to think the way you do, and letting go of the idea that there's only one right belief, because people's beliefs are nuanced. They come from histories and memories and experiences that you don't know about. And I think trying to change that in one conversation is never going to work. So by understanding that it's a process, one which probably doesn't even have a conclusion, that's kind of where I like to start.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think it's really important to know that like conflict between different values and different ideas is inevitable, and reaching that point can actually help us grow as a community more and respect each other's viewpoints and perspectives more. And that's what we try to do on the Palo Alto Youth Council, is we try to hear other people out. And even if we disagree with that, we try to make sure that we respect the person as a whole, and not get our values conflicted with like our idea of them and our perception.
I think there's also certainly value in like listening to these different perspectives. Like you get insights that you might not have really considered otherwise. Like with the recent 2024 election, like something we did at school was having these like really focused workshops on understanding like other perspectives. And so I remember like one of the activities we did was like you have some kind of polarizing issue, you're learning about both sides and reasonings to both sort of perspectives or viewpoints. And there's honestly like, I think a lot of times like Natia was saying, like you're really believing that you have this one opinion and it's like correct, but like honestly taking a step back and like challenging yourself to listen to the other perspective and really consider why a person might hold that is really important. And it really, for me at least, it kind of lets me challenge my own perspective sometimes and like really complexifies that sort of understanding.
Yeah, I think in the Bay Area and in Palo Alto, there's this bubble of people who are really similar to all of us. And whether that's political beliefs, whether it is your academic aspirations or anything like that, it's really easy to forget that this is the people around you, the people that you're frequently talking to are such a like small part of the population, small ideal set. And part of that is like just who you grow up around. And then also social media, the way social media feeds work, they're giving you what you want to hear most of the time. So they're not giving you a full array of perspectives, and that just like further shelters people. And I think that it's really easy to not want to and then avoid having these really hard conversations. So when you're having like political conversations, that's really difficult. It's really stressful. It can make you really mad. And so it's easy to just, when you're around a lot of people who have the similar ideas as you, to not think about it and to avoid these discussions. And I think that we really need to practice having discussions with people who are different than you and having respectful discourse, because when we don't practice it, just because it's not easy to do, then when we go out into spaces and we end up in conversations that do have disagreements within them, it's harder to carry ourselves how we want to, and it's harder to listen to the other person, because from my perspective and my experience, having a conversation with someone and a respectful disagreement, it takes practice. It's hard to do it.
Yeah, I think, we're one of many youth councils in the Bay Area. And annually we come together and meet. And last year we held a workshop on political polarization, and that was a really eye-opening experience. Seeing everyone's different views and being able to have that open conversation where everyone is respecting each other. And I think that is really one of the goals that we're trying to further as the Palo Alto Youth Council, is having that open dialogue, and that also plays into mental health. And I think that intersection of these two goals that are really important to youth in Palo Alto, that is what the Palo Alto Youth Council has set out to do, and I think we are achieving that. So.
Let's actually double click on that. So political polarization, what maybe you could define what that process was like, and then also what surprised you then?
Yeah, so, political polarization, both sides, not necessarily two sides, but, in general, people have widely different political views at this point, and, making sure that we can still have those political views, but at the same time, making sure that we're not just casting away whatever they say, whatever their views are, and also, making sure that we're able to acknowledge those views, understand those views, and then come at a understanding point of understanding perspective. And yeah, I think that's really what we set out to do as the youth council.
And let's shift over to leadership. You folks are all super impressive. I'm curious, is this something you're born with? Is it something you learned? Let's, in fact, yeah, please.
I can answer this one because this is my 4th year on the council. I like to say that I have a little bit of experience, but that was not always the case. I joined in my freshman year. I was incredibly shy. I did not speak too much, and I think the reason I did that was because I was listening and I was learning. And I remember Priscilla's older sister, actually Emily, was the president in my freshman year, and I remember just looking up to her in absolute awe of the leader that she was, because I saw that in moments where I panicked, in moments where I felt like I was not enough, she was able to kind of come to me and really help me out. I remember our first event was a movie night outside. We were watching Ratatouille, and we forgot the salt for the popcorn. And I was having my own little breakdown. I was like, this is all my fault. We forgot the salt, the popcorn tastes awful. And I remember Emily just being like, it's okay. We can go to Ada's Cafe, grab some salt, and then I'll go and get some actual popcorn that tastes good. And I remember thinking wow, she's so under control. She's so good at this.
I'm under pressure.
Yeah. And I was like, that's exactly who I want to be when I grow up. Yeah. And I remember even as a PIO in my sophomore year and a vice president last year, I still feel like I'm learning on the job. And I think each meeting I learn a little bit, and each event I learn how do I market that better? How do I make sure that we're targeting the right audience? How do I make sure that I remember the napkins next time? Just everything.
Yeah.
And I
You forgot the salt.
I know, I've never forgotten salt after that.
So, joking aside, I would like to learn a little bit more about how the Palo Alto Youth Commission Council affected you as a leader. How has it changed you? What has it taught you? And what's next? So,
I think one of the biggest things is I just learned so much. I look up to every single one of you guys. I feel like being in a leadership position is really just a cycle of iteration. I feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm picking up skills that I'm learning from you guys, and it's just a very, I think, rewarding process. I've been on the council for my last year now, but it's when I first started out, I was actually PIO, and it was at first a little bit nerve-wracking. I wasn't fully sure about all the marketing stuff. But Natia, for example, she stepped in, she helped me. She made sure I was always sort of on task, and she just was very, I guess really someone I looked up to and such a role model for me. Okay. And so I think really just being on the council has shown me that, and I have people here to support me and here to learn from.
Yeah.
I'll add a little bit to that. Leadership, I feel like when I think about leadership, a lot of it is about public speaking, it's about organizing and stuff like that. And personally, I was not somebody who has always had those qualities. For my middle school graduation, I was asked to recite a poem, and I got up on stage and choked. And I completely, I got partway through and I realized I was forgetting to exhale. I kept inhaling air, and then at some point I stopped being able to breathe because your lungs only go so big. And I was a little bit scarred from that. It was all right afterwards.
You survived.
I survived. I did.
Yeah.
I did survive. And hope seeking, it's really scary, and leadership is really scary. And I think that the way that I ended up in it wasn't actually by wanting to be a leader or to be in a leadership position, but I ended up in it through passion for journalism was my first place. I'm in the journalism program at my school, and I'm on C Magazine, which is the arts and culture magazine. And I joined, and I didn't realize that I was going to want a leadership position. Same thing with PAYC, actually. I didn't go into this year even thinking that I was going to run for the leadership position until we got the new leadership position of outreach specialist, which had a few of the things that I was really excited about, like reaching out to other programs, having more opportunities to really further PAYC. Yeah.
Please go
Can I add one little thing to the end of that, which is that I feel like anybody who wants to get into leadership, instead of trying to think, where can I be a leader, think, where am I so passionate about it that I want the chance to make more decisions? Where do I want to get the most involved? And when you're really passionate about something, you're probably going to end up really wanting to be a leader and being a good leader as well.
I really love your sentiment there, and I completely agree with it. I just also want to add that I think leadership also comes in the form of quiet leadership. I think for me, in my first year at PAYC, I was also really shy, really nervous like Natia. And leadership at the time, like the people I looked up to, they were the ones that, you know, remembered to that kind of checked in on me at the start of every meeting, that always chatted, that kind of looked out for me, that supported me. And I think that in the same way, we as leaders also need to kind of embody not only like the public speaking, like the, I guess what I would call like more confident, like the louder leadership, but also kind of like the leadership behind the scenes. Where we're supporting our group members, we're making sure that everybody's on task, and we're gonna make sure that, you know, we're all on schedule and the event is coming along as it's supposed to be.
It almost feels like correct me if I'm wrong, but the true leadership is not needing the spotlight. It's like being able to defer and give the credit to somebody else so they can have the limelight. Speaking of which, this next one is for Mayor Stone. What do you think Palo Alto does better than other cities, and then how can parents collaborate and support as well?
Well, I'll defer to the Palo Alto Youth Council. Well, I think they will know quite a bit, especially with the collaboration that they've been able to do with other youth councils around the region. I'm really curious to hear from all of you about what you think separates Palo Alto, whether that's positive or a negative way. I mean, I do think one of the things that we're so fortunate in Palo Alto is again that we have a citizenry here in Palo Alto that is highly engaged, very intelligent, very supportive of a lot of the work that the council has been trying to work on. For example, our work on climate action and climate change. We have one of the most ambitious programs really out there, to the point that we are actually recognized as global leaders. Palo Alto had the Crown Princess of Sweden here in February, along with the Lieutenant Governor of California, and the country of Sweden chose Palo Alto to host a Green Transition Summit. And one of the things that I always tell them is it's because our residents are so supportive of this work that they're able to provide that support to us, and so much of it comes down to them being able to then implement a lot of the programs and the policies that we pass. And then we have a wonderful group of young people in the community who's also doing that work from the bottom up. And so to be able to tackle these monumental challenges is going to have to take everyone at every level, and we have that in Palo Alto, and I think that makes us very unique.
I would definitely say whenever we're talking with other councils, like the Burlingame Council or Gilroy or whatever, the one thing that does set us apart is that, you know, we might face a lot of the same issues as other cities, but our resilience in the face of them and our, you know, our actions towards them are so, I think we are just very active. I think when we see an issue, we don't sit back and think, oh, that's so sad. I think we start thinking, how can I fix that? what can I do? How can we lead the entire country? Because I also do think about Palo Alto as kind of the first ones to like set the path, especially with climate we can see. And I think we are trying to, especially with the council as well, like we're trying to set a path that's kind of creating future leaders that we hope are gonna stay involved in Palo Alto and kind of just further.
And when you're sharing this message on these different channels, because you gotta get the word out. Did you and the team treat it almost like scientists? Like we're gonna look at all the data, we're gonna look at the conversions. Help us understand.
I think I would say when we were trying to like almost expand the council during our application process, we tried to look at the demographic of what our council has always been, and we tried to see what are we missing. I think our council was a lot of Castleton students and a lot of gun students, and so we started thinking, how can we throw Pally in? How do we get Wayne, Crystal, Sacred Heart, all of these different schools to join us? And so by really stepping back and analyzing what we didn't have, we were kind of able to expand on that. Sorry, I don't know.
No,
if that's your question.
100%. And you also mentioned before that it's important to understand your audience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you could expand. You want to expand on this?
Okay, I can maybe say a little on that. I think Annika or Ben might want to say something, but I think for us, the type of students that we want to see on our council are the passionate students. We want the students who are already starting to engage in their community, who are seeking out opportunities for community service, who are joining the clubs in their schools, because those are the same types of students who we know will come to our meetings, ready to get to work, ready to send those emails, ready to plan events, ready to take accountability and really commit to our council. So by knowing, kind of the type of people that we wanted for our council, we knew how to find them a little bit. I know for our events even, we usually target like debate clubs and different spaces like that, where we know we're trying to find other students like us who are just really excited to get engaged in the community. I think Annika or Vin wants to say something.
Yeah, so you got me. I do speech and debate, and so as someone who does speech and debate, I think that politics really, really big part of it, because for me, I do extemporaneous speaking, so I got 30 minutes to find my sources on a really random topic. I mean, I just gave one about whether the United States should, become a public transport centered country, and I was like, whoa, you got to think outside of the box. And so I just feel like, for people that are in speech and debate, we're all really focused, and we are kind of thinking about politics and things like that. And so I feel like for speech and debate people, and especially, like, this is a great place because, we are super focused about politics and mental health, like Maddie was talking about. And so I think it's really great that, we're able to kind of meet with our legislators, and here in Palo Alto, we have such a great mayor who, helps us out so much. And so I feel like it's truly great that, as someone who does speech and debate, I really see the value in, joining these things and kind of making sure that your voice is heard too. It's kind of the stuff that you've seen.
What I wanted to add is going back to Natia's. I think that I don't agree with you entirely about reaching out to people who are just like us. I think that a lot of the times we tend to lean towards people who are in our circles and who we see that are like us. But when we're looking at events for the community, one of the things that I think we all think is really important, or at least I do, is getting people who aren't already engaged. Because part of our role and part of the opportunity that we have as a council is to not only give a space to people who want to be civically engaged, but to represent people who don't think it's important and don't care about being there. And so it's our job, from my perspective, to get people who aren't like us. So yeah, obviously we're gonna reach out to the speech and debate team and journalism and whatever we're all on, but I think that also we need to be reaching out to the corners of the Palo Alto community that none of us generally sit in.
I'm so curious how you're all thinking about artificial intelligence and maybe what is your work going to look like? It's changing so quickly. So I know we didn't talk about this before, but I feel like you're capable, and I'm curious if that's okay.
I'm going to throw this one to you guys. Does anybody have an idea of what they want to say? I'll say that AI has a place in our world for sure. I think we don't like remove it from our council either. I think it sometimes helps us with planning events and little things like that. So I think we're also doing our work to kind of adapt to that new age of AI while still valuing authentic thinking and making sure that our goals are centered in our personal values and not what the computer is telling us. But I'll let you guys.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, sure. So I have mixed views on AI. I love AI, it helps me out with my essays, you know, I can say that. I think that it's a really helpful tool. I think that, you know, when used right, it's great. When used wrong, that's when it kind of, you know, that's when the implications are. And I feel like, you know, regulations around AI are kind of now starting to come to us. And I think that as being in here in Palo Alto, you know, we see a lot of AI, we see a lot of new technology coming out of the Silicon Valley, especially where we are. And so, you know, from someone who moved into Palo Alto, I feel like before I wasn't really, you know, as familiar with all this tech stuff. But, you know, now coming in here, wow, I mean, kind of opens my eyes to the new AI stuff that we have and all the artificial intelligence and all the new technologies that are coming out so quickly. Just really incredible.
Yeah, I'll also add that I think I was actually really scared of using AI because I was so scared of misinformation that I decided, I think, I'm not even sure when AI came out, I think probably when I was sometime in middle school, I think. But I was so scared of getting misinformation from AI that I just completely stayed away from it. And it really wasn't until this year when I was really struggling with chemistry that I decided to open it up and ask it a quick question. And I actually found it to be really helpful. I mean, of course, it's not going to saying like it's not going to be 100% accurate all the time, but I think that it's a good start. And I think that, you know, teens, we need to start working with these new technologies and getting more comfortable with it because they're going to continue developing, and we need to know how to use it in the right ways in order to really be able to, well, I guess, get the most out of it and also just become active members of the community.
I think this goes back to, you know, as the Palo Alto Youth Council, our goal is, again, making sure that other youth, other community members are educated about, you know, things happening around us, you know, the politics. That's definitely one thing, you know, awareness about mental health stigma. And again, that plays into, you know, AI, like people need to be aware of, you know, upsides, downsides, and that's the same thing for, you know, most things and what we deal with. And so I think, again, you know, our main goal as youth council is to, you know, make sure that our community members, our peers, you know, the people around us in general are receptive to new information and that they are able to adapt and learn more and, you know, sort of communal, like as a community grow and learn new things.
Yeah, well, I do agree that there are a lot of potential harms of AI and things about like misinformation, things that we need to be wary of. I think that AI is also such an amazing opportunity, and even regardless of how you think of it, it is going to shape how the job space, how our lives are going to look right now and in the future. We don't know exactly how far it's going to evolve, but even just with what we have now, it is so different. It like shapes what type of jobs we need, what type of skills we need to learn. And I think regardless of whether you're using AI or not using AI on your essays, like you need to be thinking about that. And not that, I think there's a lot of stress in Palo Alto. You need to be planning out your life. Okay, like what major do I need to get right now so that AI won't take my job in 10 years? But I think even if you're not having quite that much worry, it's something that is good to talk about with your friends and to discuss, to consider.
One thing I add, I think that's really great for all of you at the time that you're in your life. I think this is likely the most seismic shift we're seeing in human history since the internet. And I think you're a fellow millennial, and right, we grew up at a time when the internet was really kind of coming into maturity. And so, but we kind of both lived at a time before we had the internet, and it was a great time. And always having to use computers, but so that allowed us to be able to really kind of live in both worlds and to be able to remember that time before, but also still be very comfortable with this technology. And I think you're going to be able to have that same. So I hope you kind of embrace the technology, understanding exactly what many of you said. This is going to change our lives, whether we like it or not. But to remember, to be able to continue to, right, understand what life was like before. I'm getting way too comfortable constantly going into my email and saying, can you revise this and make it sound a little more professional? And so I think it's a really good opportunity for all of you to be able to be here right at the start of this technology and really in the birthplace of it.
Yeah, exactly. And embrace that change. Like there was a lot of folks who, their head in the sand when it came to email, for example. And actually it's all the way back to the railroad and all sorts of technologies early on. I'm curious, how would you like to see Palo Alto continue to evolve over the next 5-10 years? And we're gonna let you take this one.
Yeah, I think that is a great question. I think as youth, we definitely like to see more youth involved. And like Annika said, we like to get so many more perspectives. I think a lot of the people who need access to these resources, to these mental health resources, to these resources about substance abuse are the ones who don't have access to them. And I think as one of the public information officers, one of our goals is to reach out to those communities specifically who are more marginalized within the Palo Alto community, who don't have access to these resources but need them. And I hope in the next few years we'll be able to reach out to those sorts of people and really bring the community together through that way.
Yeah, I think it'd be really great to see continual growth in mental health advocacy. I think at the end of the day, we really want to see, I think this was sort of touched on earlier as well, but we want to see individuals feeling comfortable to stand up and present their own unique stories of mental health, because I think each person has their own unique, relationship with mental health challenges, whether that's been a major or minor part of their lives. I also want to add on to the resources part of what Camille was talking about, and I think that we not only need to target the people who are affected by mental health challenges, but also the people who aren't, because oftentimes friends are really like the first responders to mental health challenges, because oftentimes people feel most comfortable going to the people that they feel familiar with, that they feel comfortable with, that they feel like won't judge them if they're really vulnerable. But unfortunately, I think a lot of the times teens don't really know how to respond back to that. Personally, I've been in a couple of these situations, and honestly, it's been one of the scariest experiences because I want to support my friend in the right way, I want to say the right thing, but I really don't know what to do.
On a more general, less issue-specific lens, this is my personal opinion. Growing up in Palo Alto, you see that it's an area of innovation. I went to Ohlone Elementary School. We had each teacher got to individualize their curriculum, and at Pali right now, we have all these pathways. We have the social justice pathway that I'm in, and all of these different areas that Palo Alto students get to explore their identities and their passions. And I think that having so many opportunities in those realms is really beneficial, especially in both of those are public schools. It's really amazing to be able to access all of that in public schools. And I am very social justice oriented with my beliefs and what areas that I'm interested in. And I've noticed that that Palo Alto is not shifting away from innovation, but maybe tiptoeing around it a little bit more recently. And from my personal standpoint, even if I'm leaving Palo Alto for college, even if I never come back, my parents move to Big Sur or wherever they want to go, I really hope that Palo Alto will get to continue that legacy of innovation and create schools, create spaces where people get to find themselves.
Awesome. This has been super fun, so thank you all. Let's go around the horn and just for maybe 20, 30 seconds to say what's next for you, and also how can the zombie community be helpful to you?
Are you referring like specifically like as a Palo Alto Council?
No, with each one of you specifically. Maybe it's school, maybe it's interest in a job, or what does that look like for each of you?
Yeah, I have a couple years away, but specifically for me, I'd like to do something where I can make a very tangible impact in the community, like less abstract. And I feel like PAYC is definitely a big starting point for me. I don't know yet if I'm going into like engineering, STEM, or like the other side, but I definitely like to have a sort of like social justice background, like Monica said, while connecting with my community and trying to empower others in my potential future career.
Excellent.
Well, for me, I have a tournament this weekend, so that's what I'm really looking forward
There we
to.
go.
But no, on a really bigger note, what I really want to do is, I want to get into politics because, like Mayor Greer Stone, I want to be able to make an impact on the community, and have a little bit of power. Whatever I'm doing, I want to be able to say that, I did that. I like what you did there. I'm gonna take that. So I can do now. And so I just feel like I want to continue adding stuff to my game. I like a little reference that I use is adding skill moves to your bag because I play basketball, football, stuff like that. And so just gonna keep adding stuff, and that's kind of what I want to do as I keep going on, and kind of pursue whatever life has to hold and see what happens next.
Excellent. In hosting events, PAYC hosts a ton of cool events. In fact, are there any favorites that you have?
Well, we just had our movie night, and that's the one that I've actually been a part of.
That was the popcorn.
But yeah, I had a blast at the movie night. I'm really looking forward to our final study cram exams coming up. But I had a great time watching Coco. I had a great time planning it with the rest of the group. And for me, it being my only event, I had a blast. Really, there you go.
Okay, I hope this doesn't bring the mood down. I'm applying to colleges right now, but separate from that, I know it's a heavy topic in Palo Alto. But one that people do start talking about in like 5th grade maybe. But other than college applications, I think for this year there are a lot of things that I'm really excited to do with PAYC, with some other things that I'm a part of, like C Magazine at my school, and Connect Safely, another organization, Rise to Education. Not important, but I'm really excited to reach out to more organizations and get PAYC more involved. At the final study cram slam, which Malcolm mentioned, we're having this therapy dog organization. So if anybody's watching this, wants to come for the therapy dogs, it's Monday through Wednesday in this room. And yeah, that's why I'm coming, and I have to. But when we have events, we often get the same organizations to come, and I'm really excited to branch that out and get more organizations to be regularly working with us so we can throw more events and support more different areas of our community.
Excellent. Ben, you want to announce your candidacy for something?
I touched upon this earlier, but I think one thing that I definitely want to do later in life, maybe much later on, but is running for local office. I think seeing Mayor Greer Stone's, campaign and everyone else's campaigns, it's really, empowered me. And I think, like even if it's just a side gig, it would be like the best side gig ever. As I'm sure Mayor Greer Stone can attest to.
Which is a great time job, if this is your side
Teacher.
But I think, furthering, my passion for politics through Palo Alto Youth Council, I think that would be a really great way to do it. And, I think, again, what better way to get more involved than to just go in directly and jump into local politics.
You have my vote then.
I think for me, I really want to combine two of my main interests. The first is mental health. I really want to expand more on youth mental health advocacy, and I think it's so important to further destigmatize this topic. And, as was touched on earlier, to really make sure there are accessible resources there for teens. I specifically want to look at this in the Asian American community because I think that there's a lot of stigma about mental health in Asian communities specifically. And I think, the culture around mental health really does vary from minority community to minority community, between cultures and cultures. And so my second interest really is looking at Asian American studies and looking at Asian American communities. So I'm really hoping to look at Asian American mental health and really examine what that looks like in youth, and in addition to elders as well.
As Annika said, I've been also applying to colleges right now. As a senior, I've had, I think, a good amount of time to sort of reflect on what I want to do in my life. And as of right now, and obviously it's open to change because next 4 years I'll be in college, I'll be exploring new things. But as of right now, I've been very interested in linguistics and also anthropology, East Asian studies. And so I'm hoping I can further that next couple of years, yeah.
I want to start by saying thank you so much for having us. We really, really enjoyed being here, especially Mayor Stone. I'm glad we've been able to highlight some of the work we're doing, amplifying youth voice in the city. And also say, I'm also senior college, math test tomorrow. But I would say looking into the very beyond future, I think the reason I've been on the council for all 4 years is because I'm really passionate about the work that we do. I think that's something that's never going to go away. I want to pursue it in my life, public service maybe. And I also think that there's so much value in amplifying youth voices because not only are they not heard a lot, but those are it's the voice of the future. It's the voice that needs to be heard. And I think maybe when I'm older, I'll do something like Chris, who's our advisor, does. Shout out Chris, we love Chris. This is the backbone of our council. And he does really, really incredible work amplifying our voices and getting us that support and structure to do the work that we do. And so I hope that in my future I can help do what he does, amplify other youth voices. And just kind of continue over to.
Thank you again for a wonderful discussion tonight. I'm glad I was successful. I won re-election. Thank you. Equally grateful that they're not 18 and we're not challenging me because I'm certain any one of them would have defeated me. So next time I'll be watching out for you all. But one of the reasons why I decided to run again was to really continue the work that the city and all of us have been doing on youth mental health and well-being. And so some of the things I'm looking forward to in the short term is we're going to be opening up a new teen center in North Palo Alto. I know the youth council is going to be engaged and involved and encourage you to continue because that is your space and you should be right there, hands-on this project, making sure we're developing it in a way that's really going to be able to serve you and future students to come. So hope you all, as you continue on in your lives, continue to stay engaged, continue to give back. There is no cooler side gig than this. And, I would say definitely just showing up is really, really important. And you'll find it's a small group at the top. And so if you're just there at the table, you can really make a meaningful change and you don't have to be an elected leader to be able to make that type of change that you are all talking. Doing what you're doing right now is really, really making an impact. So thank you for all of you.
Wonderful. And then maybe as a president, are there any parting thoughts or maybe a website or what final message would you like to leave for our audience here?
I'll just plug our council. I'll just say, make sure to follow our Instagram, NP Teen Services. We're trying to get that out there. I would say encourage the youth in your lives to engage with the city. Encourage them to come to our events. We have so many great initiatives coming up. We're hoping to have more collaboration with the city council. Hopefully we're possibly have them come and speak to youth. We have a lot of really cool mental health initiatives. We're asking for input, we're asking for engagement. So if you can just encourage the people in your lives, encourage the youth in your lives to engage with the community, that's like the best thing that we could ask for, and that's all we're looking for from our youth community.
Excellent. Well, let's give a big round of applause for Mayor Greer Stone and PAYC. And for more Silicon Zombies, check out siliconzombies.com. And thank you guys again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Cheers, everybody. All right.
Well done.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah.
So before you guys all leave, we have a raffle. If you guys haven't filled out a raffle ticket yet, please go and see my lovely colleague Bradley. We're going to be raffling off some of our sponsors with Coco and the Gorilla Foundation, who we had the opportunity to accept some custom-made gorilla art. This will be auctioned